Hey everyone, how are you today? Hope that you're doing great. Um, there's so many things that I want to share with you, and I have overcome many, many things in my life, and now that I'm, a certain age, I want to even share more what I've learned, from living. And I think one of the things that's really important is to learn about our emotions. And some of us, when we were growing up, we didn't learn that. People get angry, people get mad, people get frustrated, people feel scared, and it's okay. We're always maybe some of us were told, nice little girls don't get mad. Um, or we weren't taught how to handle being mad. That could have been another thing, or we could have seen behavior that showed more violent reactions or mean or um, rageful responses to those emotions from caregivers, from parents, um, people that were bigger than we were. So anyway, okay, so the main thing when dealing with emotions is simply to identify them. So if I'm feeling angry, I can just say I feel angry. I think it's important to say I feel as opposed to I am, because sometimes that I am is more of an identification with ourselves. So I feel angry or I feel mad. And there's different ranges. Like if I still feel upset, upset might be, that I feel, rageful. If I said I feel rageful and I feel upset, those two, there's a big gap in between. And obviously, rageful is a lot stronger feeling than have if I feel upset. So I think the main thing to do is simply to identify, name the feeling, just name it. And we don't have to always know why we feel that way. We don't have to really do too much about it, but just name it. And if we can let ourselves, just have some of that feeling about what it, if we're in a safe place and whatever, and if we can let ourselves feel that bit of upset, the bit of anger, if it's rage, that could probably help, I think, a little bit more. But yet, the identification of the emotion is the important thing. Simply, like let's say I feel scared, and I feel really terrified about something. I feel really, oh my gosh. Then I might be also afraid to acknowledge whatever the emotion is, because I think if I do, say that I feel scared or I feel terrified, that it's just going to engulf me. And that's not going to happen. It's actually like a release, like just picture a balloon all blown up and you're letting out some of that air. The balloon's not going to pop then if you're letting out some of that air. It's deflating, it's letting go of some of it. And it's the same thing if I feel really, really scared, and I say I feel terrified right now. For a moment or so, I may feel some of that feeling, but it's not going to just keep growing and growing. It's releasing it. It's when I push it away, not acknowledge it, pretend I don't feel that way, try to feel another way, try to busy myself. That's where it's really going to create a problem. And I personally think that that's where anxiety comes from, with people that have pushed away emotions, for a variety of reasons. Maybe they, just didn't know what they were. They didn't feel comfortable acknowledging them. They were, it was fear that they were afraid, if they did, like I said, identify them, even say, I feel scared, that it was just going to get bigger. And those are all understandable, thoughts. So, but identifying them, that's really key. It will really help dissipate it. And back to the anxiety again, when we keep pushing away, just for an analogy, as a picture, think of a rug. We've heard the saying, sweeping something under the rug, and just picture a rug, with its edge open, and we're actually sweeping dirt. We're just sweeping dirt. Well, pretty soon, the pile of refuse is going to get bigger, and then even touching the rug, walking on the rug, whatever is going, some of that's going to be released, and it's like, we might be walking by the rug, and some of that comes out, and it's like, well, where did that come from, And that's kind of the same thing sometimes with emotions that have been pushed away, and then something triggers that emotion that we might not be aware of, and so all of a sudden we may feel fear or anger, and we don't know why, and that complicates the whole thing of emotions for us, because we don't have a reason that we're feeling that, and so then we start questioning our sanity to some point at somewhere along the line, and the anxiety can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then whatever it is that maybe triggered it, like let's say we're going to fly somewhere, you're going to go on a trip, airplane, and you'd flown before, and but then you started going through some difficulty, you hadn't flown for a while, and you're starting to have some difficult things to deal with, and so you weren't very good at identifying those emotions, and you didn't feel like maybe they were even warranted, the emotions, that you should have been able to handle whatever it was that's going on, but you at the same time, so you were trying to handle it by pushing away the emotions that perhaps we consider negative sometimes, like fear and anger, discouragement, doubt, things like that, hurt, feeling hurt. And so, but those feelings are still there. And then all of a sudden, we get on the airplane, we haven't been afraid to fly before. And, something transpires that it triggers an emotion. And so then we tie it to, oh, it's flying. I'm scared of flying. Or even before we get on the plane, or it could be going over a bridge, or it could be, just going somewhere, or leaving our house even. So there's all kinds of phobias that can come from, as not only phobias, but also addictions. I strongly, strongly, strongly believe that addictions such as, all kinds of addictions actually, whether it's food related, eating too much, not eating, drugs, abusing drugs, to try to, basically if a person is abusing or using drugs, certain kinds of drugs, then it's to feel better. And it's the same way with food, it's to feel better. Or it's the same way with, maybe it's a gambling or a shopping, or relationship addictions of sorts. They're all related to ultimately trying to feel better, trying to feel in control, because part of us feels really out of control, and we don't know what to do about it. And so then we get into using a substance of sorts, or doing some activity that feels like it alleviates it, and perhaps it does in the beginning because it's a distraction or whatever, but pretty soon it becomes an addiction, and we're trying to feel better ultimately, but the thing that will help us to feel better is to start identifying the emotions. Even if we're in an addiction, let's say we're a heroin addict, for example. And so a heroin addict not only has, from the drug itself, there's, the feeling of euphoria, the feeling of well-being, and then there's different aspects of that addiction also. But those are, that's kind of one of the main things from the drug itself. And so, and also it's going to be physically, our body's going to keep wanting that, so physically addictive, and not only psychologically but physically. And so then if we don't have the drug, then our body's going to respond in ways that we're going to feel sick, we're not going to feel good at all. We feel like, oh, if I had that drug, I know I'll feel better. But so there's a number of things that we can do to stop that addiction. And number one, identifying, I feel really awful, I feel really scared, I feel really sad, I feel, and then right too. But one of the really important things to do is to stop thinking about that drug making us feel better, because it's not real. It's not real at all. So you got to stop thinking about, the same way with food. You got to stop thinking about that eating that whole cake or not eating the cake, that we're going to feel more in control, that we're going to feel better, that we're going to be back to our familiar feelings. And we may be back to our familiar feelings, but those familiar feelings may not be beneficial to us, especially if they're an addiction related. Yeah. So identifying feelings, and then our thinking, like trying to think, not catastrophizing, not imagining things, but just trying to stay with what is. If we feel bad, we feel bad, and if we feel bad, of course we can keep feeling worse, but identifying it allows us to then make different choices, right? So these are just a few ideas that I wanted to share with you, because I've overcome many things in my life, and I think that sometimes when somebody wants to overcome something in their life, they look for people and they look for help, and then sometimes it's all about business, and sometimes that isn't always the most helpful thing, because sometimes the businesses don't really have the experience. I always personally think that the person that really can help us is somebody that's been through. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you have a wonderful afternoon.